3, 2. Hey, everybody, welcome back. I'm Emily Moyer, and this is Internal Alchemy. And my good friend Rob Stuart is here with me today. We actually did a show for the first time, I think about a year and a half ago, like kind of towards the beginning of lockdown. Since that time, he's moved, I've moved. The world seemingly has not moved, has not moved very much, and in other ways have moved. And we were just talking before we started. We met each other actually in person at this time last year, and something funny is happening with the time. We'll sort through all of this. Skin health and digestive lifestyle design expert Rob Stuart is here with me. Rob, welcome back. It's nice to see you, my friend.
It's so fun to be back and chatting with you. And I look forward to seeing where this conversation goes, because we always go into some interesting places. So I'm excited to be here, and thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. So I still, a year and a half out from our first meeting and probably 2 years out from discovering your work and your channel, I still feel you are the most effective teacher on YouTube for people to take responsibility for their health and keep it fun. And I actually think you are doing the best work at sort of selling like the animal-based diet in terms of like, now I'm not talking about like in a commercialization or commodifying kind of way, but you're very flexible. You're right. Like you have some people out there, and also you're very, you're of the people. You're not arrogant. You're not like proposing like a solution that 99% of the people could never afford or don't have the time to do. And you're not dogmatic, right? And you're funny. I love watching your videos, like especially when you talk about like what happens when you eat beans or something like that, right? The way you sort of do all the, when you talk about poop or morning wood or whatever, like the kind of humor that you bring to a situation that is actually really important and crucial that people understand makes it digestible, enjoyable, and easy to learn from you. And you do bite-sized pieces. You don't feel like you have to download the entire understanding of why animal-based nutrition is more nutrient dense and easy to digest all in like 1 hour. And so I continue to learn from you, which is like the main reason I wanted to bring you back. But also I'm really enjoying the way your understanding of your own body and your own diet continues to evolve over time. Like you're actually teaching something quite different now than you were even teaching a year and a half ago. And it's not because you were wrong a year and a half ago. It's because the world we live in has changed. Your body has changed. Your understanding has changed. So I want to talk a little bit about the evolution of your own diet and the way you're teaching people and how you've updated your teachings and your coaching and stuff since then. So jump in wherever you want and take it away.
Yeah, no, it's a really cool observation. And to be honest with you, I wish I could take credit for having like this master plan and laying out my content and my coaching in the way that you described, because you did just make me sound like a pretty rad dude. And I might not be as rad as you say I am. What I mean by that is my kind of content is really just based around my best effort at trying to be transparent with two major things. One, my own journey through diet and exercise and fitness and health and spirituality and psychology and just being a human man in this modern time. And also sharing as consistently and clearly as I can the protocols and things that have actually helped me achieve certain levels of health. And I don't have much of a problem or fear sharing things and being wrong, or sharing things and changing my mind, because I think that that's how you actually really learn. Is you have a experience, you look at it in a black and white matter, and you take from it the things that work and you leave the things that don't, and you try to refine. And so really the mastermind idea of sharing with people is just being honest. And I believe full-heartedly that when you tell people the truth, the right people are going to get the message and the wrong people will leave you alone. Kind of a filter in a way. Also, it's really been a matter of sharing the experiences of my clients who've had the most success. And probably over the past 2 years with my content, I'm sharing more of that perspective than my own. Mm-hmm. And that's been powerful because it allows me to take a step away from looking at my own story, my own self, and trying to trying to find the places that are relatable to other people and just using what's relatable to other people because it is other people. I find that also, I've worked with over 1,500 people at this point, and looking back and being able to do a meta-analysis of that, I think is probably a little bit more useful than just my N=1 type of experimentation. So I appreciate the feedback, and I really do my best to try to present to people the truth of the story, what I found really works, and also be honest with my own mistakes and the things that don't work, period. And if something's not working, like veganism, I'm gonna be truthful about it. And I try not to be disrespectful or be too opinion oriented, and just try to share facts and stories, and do my best. Like I said, it's all about transparency on this channel.
So I enjoy that. And even though, I mean, I do some nutrition stuff with the media thing, but that's not the bulk of my content. The bulk of my content is based around like way pretty out there stuff, but the same thing, the more transparent and open I am with like, I don't know, I actually don't know what the truth is. I think it might be this. I'm not sure about that. I used to think this, but now I kind of think that. I don't know, like, you know, being honest about where I am with things, you know, has helped me to avoid a lot of the traps that people in like alternative media or truth or whatever kind of people fall into. Because the truth is, anybody who tells you that they know what is going on, like unless they're the one doing this, right, then it's not, they don't, right? We're all just taking our best stab at trying to figure this all out. And some of us do it in a more entertaining or enlightening or broad kind of way, and others in a very like dialed into one particular version of reality kind of way. But the transparency like keeps you from having to keep track of who you've told what and this, that, and the other thing. And it's too, right? It's too much. So if you're just honest, and this is where I'm at this moment today, tomorrow it may be different. It really does. And I think people appreciate it. It makes you feel human. Like I can think of other people who I've learned things from, you know, during my time of sort of observing other people in the nutrition space online. Like I've learned things from them, but they are they have preached a formula that has made them very popular or very famous or really works for them. And they are reluctant to ever consider anything else. And so they will kind of sift through what material they present in order to preserve their narrative, which over time leads to a situation where you're not answering reasonable questions that people actually have. And the problem ensues that we're sort of, you know, talking about that. So I think transparency is always the way to go on this stuff. For the people who didn't see you when you were on with me last time or aren't familiar with your work, you know, you kind of rose to prominence in the skin health, you know, or just YouTube health field as a vegan. And then over time sort of, you know, had to reckon with the sort of fallout of that. Like, well, it accomplished your goal. It didn't, you know, of skin health, it didn't accomplish your goal of overall health. And, you know, when I first started tracking you, you had moved pretty hard to the other side of like really pretty strict carnivore. And then we're starting to sort of, you know, swing back to a place of like animal-based, like leading with animal-based, but starting to include other things as well, which is now really like your main mantra, right? Like animal-based diet, but like including a lot of other things. And then more than anything, I hear you, and you've always talked about this, but it's now like you're pushing this part the hardest, is the customization per person, not a blanket one size fits all for everybody. Can you talk about that evolution a little bit?
Yeah, I think that it's a very important topic because the evolution, I think for me personally, is less about my changes to my diet and the changes that my clients are making, and more about how we communicate in general about these topics. So 2 years ago, there was not a better term for animal-based eating than carnivore diet. If you said carnivore diet, people kind of got an idea of it's the hashtag headline world that we live in. Yeah. You know, people want to put things under a label, and to save hours and hours of communication, it's easier to say carnivore diet or animal-based diet or sapien diet or whatever. But the true deep level of what I've always done, even when I was a vegan teacher, was customization of the diet. Because as simple as if rice works for one vegan, it could destroy another, same as people who are on an animal-based diet. There's so much nuance and differentiation between each person's needs, from their gut biome, from their environment, from their calories. You know, a person that comes into working with me who might be a little bit heavier is going to have a totally different path than a male who comes to me who's drastically underweight. And so I have done my best, and I'm a huge proponent of the 4 Agreements book from Don Miguel Ruiz. I'm stealing this from him. When I'm impeccable with my word, I feel really damn good in life. It's that simple. And as straightforward as putting a hashtag carnivore diet is at the bottom of a video, I actually take that very seriously. So using the term animal-based and customizing your diet through your own biomarker feedback, I'm using those terms as much as I can because I think they paint a more clear and relevant picture of what it is that I'm trying to say. And part of that is just, I'm actually not a real fast learner. I take a lot of time to chew on stuff. And like I said, I am always trying to communicate impeccably, at least do my best to try to be impeccable with my word and honest with my word, and use absolutely no black magic in the terms of my communication. And so the content that you see, the way I talk about my diet, the way I even explain my personal experiences, I feel like it's just getting tighter and a little bit better. And so if I could go back 5 years ago or 4 years ago when I started eating this way, I wish I did just call it animal-based or animal-focused. But it is what it is. You know, my diet has evolved, and it always will evolve and refine. I think that, you know, I'm 42 years old. Each year, I'm either bigger or smaller. I'm in a different emotional place. I have access to different things, and all of that stuff determines what my diet is going to be. But the major changes for me have just been some of the crazy experiments I've done dietarily with some raw milk, with upping my carbs drastically, and just seeing what it does and if there's viability for other systems other than what I'm doing right now. Because really, my goal for my channel isn't just I'm not a vlogger. I'm not someone who's trying to be Casey Neistat, although I wish I could make a video like him. That's not what I do. I'm just not, you know, I'm not like a reality TV show guy. I'm just someone who's trying to help people not suffer from skin disease. And so if my content can be in a way that it really shows that, then I feel like I'm doing my job.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like the way you sort of, you know, put all of that together. One of the things that you, so recently you made a shift in terms of you went from like a particular like 3-phase workbook sort of plan book, sort of online PDF that you had been making the basis of your program into a more like a particular course with a lot more interaction, like with you and with other members or people who are doing what you're doing. I want to talk about that a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about that 3-phase workbook, because you that was kind of like the mantra for a long time for you and for your clients. And a while back, I bought your workbook, right? I didn't like take a look at it actually right away, but I bought it because I do occasionally, I get clients coming to me with skin health. Generally, the people coming to me are coming to me with what they perceive, and oftentimes is, but sometimes isn't, Morgellons or nanotechnology or things like this coming out of the skin. But I hadn't, you know, once in a while, I'll get someone who's had a history with skin disease, or once the Morgellons clears, we find out that there's also skin disease underneath it. And so, you know, I like to learn from the people. That's not my specialty. My specialty is, you know, like more to do with like helping people lose weight, making better choices with their food, to sort of make better choices with their life. So I went and I got it, and I took a little bit of a look, but I never really went in and sort of dug straight in. I like had it there for something to refer to. And recently I decided I needed to go on a cleanse or like a detox sort of period. And when I do that, I like to try something different than I've done before. So I decided I was going to sort of, with a few slight modifications based on my own awarenesses of my body basically do, about 5 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks from your workbook. And I have to say, it has been one of the most effective, sort of intense short period of diet change time things I've ever done. And I'm not surprised about that. I'm like, there's some things that I would not personally have thought to do for myself before, because I don't have a skin health problem, right? That's never been my big thing. Most of my skin issues I've had with my skin cleared up when I stopped eating sugar and stopped doing drugs, right? And so when it goes away that quick, it's like, okay, that's not skin disease, that's just poor health, right, and poor choices. But your workbook is effective for other things. It's actually been the quickest I've been able to regain, I'm vain. And if I'm traveling a lot, not able to exercise, or if I'm in pain with back pain in a way that makes me not able to exercise the way that I want, which we're going to talk about some of that in a little bit, sometimes things get into a range that I'm not comfortable with. And so I'm looking for ways to sort of mediate that. And this was highly effective for that. But the one thing that is very, the discovery for me as a major health food that I would never have guessed is squash.
Yeah, that's the thing for a lot of people. And I'm glad you brought this up, because one of the things in the animal-based community or the carnivore diet community, in any community that trickles in as communities grow, is dogma, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you don't hear in our communities as much as you hear in the vegan community is the harsh dogma. With carnivore dieters, every once in a while, I'll get a comment on a video like, adding fruit to carnivore diet is not fucking carnivore. It's like, well, carnivores eat grass and fruit sometimes, literally, right? Carnivore animals. So also, yeah, you're right. It's not meat. It's plants. And guess what? That's okay. You're not going to die. You're actually a human. So I'm glad that it's an opportunity to give people permission to, you can call yourself a carnivore, you can call yourself anything you want, and do whatever you want with the food that you eat. You can call yourself a carnivore diet and eat a plant-based diet. That's your fucking right.
Right. It's kind of like the non-binary of the diet world, right?
in a way, yeah, exactly.
Veganism.
In a way, it's very true. Good call out right there. But the deeper meaning is, hey, the reason that we use these dietary names isn't as a badge of honor into an exclusive club.
Right.
I'm carnivore and I don't eat fruit at all. Look how special I am. I have a badge to this club and keys to the city. It's like, no. It's like we use these dietary labels so that we have an understanding and a clear picture of what the hell to eat and what it actually means. Animal-based is pretty straightforward. I'm eating mostly animal products. Ketogenic diet, that makes sense. It's describing that you're going to be using ketones as your main fuel source. And so many times I feel like we get so stuck in labeling of the diets, and then that becomes part of cult culture. What I've seen with my clients is that when you introduce certain foods and you take away certain foods, there's going to be a response every time. And I've noticed for a lot of animal-based people that the right amount of fruit and or the right amount of starches from the right sources for the right people can make someone who's using a carnivore diet and not getting great results and turn it into something that is totally next level. Yeah. For instance, many of the clients, and some people will be listening to this and be like, oh, Rob, I wish I had this problem. But you'd be surprised at how many people come to me who are malnourished, who cannot put on healthy body weight. I was one of these people back in the day, and I work with a lot of females and males who are not feeling good because they cannot hold on to healthy body weight. And one thing that is hard to do is on a fat and protein only based diet. Shit, if I do fat and protein only, I can do 4,000 calories a day and I'll get super shredded. But the second I start adding 100 grams of fruit or starches to that, I feel supple. I feel a little stronger. My body image and my body shape is more the way I like it to look personally. And I do think there is something to be said. You use the word vanity. I use the word vanity and any emotionally body-based reactions as signals, right? You're vain because when you look at yourself and you look healthy,
Yeah.
That's a normal response for, okay, now I can go out in the world and do stuff. That's positive. Now taking vanity to that crazy place where you're obsessive, that's not good.
Vanity Smurf.
Yeah, right. It's also like the body's response to making love and having sex. There's a reason that it feels really good. There's a reason why you're drawn to it all day long. There's a reason why the whole world is revolving around the two people having sex, boy, girl, boy, 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 girl, whatever it is. We're drawn to that for a reason. And it's a deeper reason than we can cognitively understand. It's the deepest human aspect of us. And I think listening to those things is part of eating as well.
Yeah, I like that. You know, for me, when I say vanity, I guess what I really mean is I need myself to look the way I see myself in my mind. Right.
Totally.
And that can even evolve over time. But I have this picture of myself when I'm the most Emily I can be, the best Emily I can be. And so when I start to become out of alignment with that, either way, from being like overindulgent or stressed out and underindulgent or whatever, then something is amiss, and I'm looking to sort of realign. But that idea that have like that thing that we think of as vanity in its healthy sense is actually the indication that this is good for you or this is not good for you or whatever. I hadn't thought about it that way before. That's really good. I like that.
Or another point of that is, where's your vanity coming from? Is it coming from your analyzing, or is it coming from an inner emotion?
Yeah.
The inner emotions are the good stuff. The analytical, oh, okay, good luck with your brain. Good luck trying to figure out your monkey brain. Our bodies, you look at yourself and you're like, I'm feeling a little vain and I'm proud and I like what I see. That's a body sensation. You can feel that. And the reason your body is liking that is because if you're looking good, you're most likely at a healthy place. So it's a little loop that, like we're talking about, can be put off in this negative category. But honestly, if it's coming from the right signal, it's a great thing to pay attention to. If you're constantly looking at yourself and you have zero vanity, and you are also noticing like, oh, I look a little strung out, or, oh, I'm bloated as hell, I don't care. I don't think that's real. I think that's a rationalization for giving up.
I agree with you. All right. I want to go back to the squash for a second, because this is, I have to tell you, like we find ourselves being proponents of squash lifestyle now, which is really, so a lot of the things that were in your 3-phase workbook, and I'm going to give you a chance in a few minutes to talk about sort of what you're doing now that you've sort of moved on from, are things that I've always included in either my just clean eating lifestyle or my more carnivore animal-based lifestyle. Squash was something that, like, I guess my dad didn't like it, so we didn't eat it growing up. I've had a neutral feeling towards it, but for some reason I would never have thought of it as like the food that would be the key to something working or not working for me. But we started experimenting with the different kinds of squash, and you very quickly find, like, there's this company that makes vanilla bean ghee. You can actually turn squash into dessert, and that satisfies, right? That satisfies this desire for something smooth and sweet and creamy, right? That makes it easier to sort of like accept the fact that you're on a restrictive diet kind of thing. And there's so many varieties of it. And for some reason, even though, like, I'm a middle-aged female, according to society, what society says, and, if I don't take care of my body in a certain way, I will not be as thin or cut or whatever as I like to be. And so sometimes the idea, like, one would think that like removing as many carbs or any of that kind of stuff would be more effective to be lean, especially in a period of time where you can't exercise exactly the way that you want to. But I'm finding it's completely the opposite. I actually am having better luck getting my body to where I want it to be quicker with the addition of squash and some of the fruit than I had when I did really hardcore carnivore for the first time a year and a half ago. Like, that was really great for my energy level and my focus. And like, I used the time of the harsh lockdown to like really increase my productivity as far as my work. And the carnivore really helped with that. Right. But the actual, like, literally 5 weeks to a different body than I had without like having to kill myself with exercise and without having to control my calories or anything like that, basically eating when I'm hungry and eating as much as I want. has been kind of shocking. And I literally think that like the actual key food for me in this case was squash. And I would never have thought that. So thank you for introducing squash to my life. And is this something that you have found? Is this a key food for, obviously for you probably, but for most of your clients at this point? Because and how did you figure this out? Because in my head, I guess I would have thought, well, it's kind of starchy, like sweet, like potatoes. So maybe once in a while is okay, but not on a regular basis. But that's wrong. It's completely different than potatoes. So
right. It's completely different from potatoes, but also similar, the same. I think honestly, what you're doing is you're articulating a really juicy way of saying how I explain people. You have to customize your macros first. Yeah. And that's a huge part of the current offering and what I do. And maybe a bigger difference than the 3-phase workbook stuff is part of the customization of the diet. And one of the utmost important parts of your diet, besides what you eat, is your calories per day, which people screw up all the time and you can eat the perfect foods. And if you undereat or overeat, you're screwed. You're actually probably better with the right foods, slightly overeating than undereating, but that might be a conversation for later. 2, your macros, what your fat percentage is compared to your carb percentage, compared to your protein percentage. Most women that I've dealt with on average do better with a higher carbohydrate intake. So you may fall directly into that category where carnivore was providing for you all of the right brain candy and all of the right building nutrients to have a very good foundation, but was leaving something for your personal gut biome and metabolic processes on the table because you needed some carbohydrate in there. I also think that similar to what some vegans promote, like a fruit-based, high carb, low fat, zero fat diet that can do certain things, 100% fat and protein diet, both of those diets are missing a nutrient. A diet that has all nutrients and is used will have an easier time for most people than diets that take out a nutrient completely and are only using 2 of them. So I think you're not alone. I think that the problem is a lot of people who join the carnivore community or the animal-based community automatically now think all sugar and all carbs in all forms is total bullshit and you should stay away from it. Again, it's that dogma where we need to have conversations like this where nuance is brought in details and differentiation. For instance, I can have a client who per day does absolutely amazing on 150 to 100 grams of carbs per day. But the second we drop her to 50 carbs or below into like a ketogenic zone, hormones are thrashed, brain fog, nothing works. But in that 150 gram carb range, workout's amazing, just a huge difference. Whereas for me, I can kind of go back and forth. I can go pretty high with my carbs, up to 300 grams some days when I'm doing cyclical carb cycling, but I can also thrive in certain months or 2-week stretches with zero sugar of any kind at all. So again, I don't like to be a broken record, but I'm going to be, because this is the most important thing, customizing your approach personally based on your body's biomarker feedback, which is what you did. Yeah. You did the carnivore diet. You learned a lot from it. You felt like something was needed. You made a refinement. The refinement obviously worked. And now you're working through another process of playing with that refinement. And I'm sure in 6 months, you'll have a new refinement that takes you even to a better place. It's a lifetime practice. Okay. It's a practice that never ends.
Okay. So a couple things I want to say to that. So the other thing that you sort of really push, besides just customizing your diet, obviously, is being honest with yourself, right? And when I'm honest with myself, like, I'm a foodie, I like cocktails, like maybe at another point in my life, I will leave all of this behind and go be a food critic, which is something I wanted to be when I was younger, right? And just have another experience of another part of Emily. So for me, a lot of it is, and I've done this many times in my life, there's a balance point, right? Like, how frequently can I have one of those meals that's like, this is phenomenal, really enjoy it, but then right back to the grind. And for a couple of years now, like I had kind of figured all that out. And then I had a back issue, which you mentioned to me before we got started that you've been dealing with too. And I want to talk about that in a second. but that has changed. I used to just be able to sort of exercise off the food or the cocktail indiscretions, and now it's a little bit different. And so for me, just going like, I'm going to live being in this restricted mode forever, that's not honest with who I actually am, what I actually enjoy in life. And so the customization process for me now, and being honest with myself, is like, what actually works? Like how frequently can I go and enjoy the other part of my reality, and you know, and what things have to actually be off the table almost all the time, and what things can be allowed. And it is a process, the refinement process, and being honest with yourself, right? So that's kind of my little next take. Laura has a question she wanted me to ask you, and I'm sure other people, you know, probably have this question as well. And I don't know if this has shifted in your updated workings. For me, it wasn't really a problem because I don't really like chicken, but like, why is chicken not a part of, I think I know why, right? But I think a lot of people have this question because a lot of people, like, they have still that mind controlled, like, beef is bad for you thing. And so they want to go to like chicken or chicken breast. For me, unless it's like fried, which is bad for you for another reason, I'm not really that interested in chicken, and it makes me feel bad. It makes my body feel inflamed. But a lot of people really rely on that. Why is that maybe a less wonderful food, or at least when you're first trying to figure out what works for you? Why is chicken often not the place to start?
I think it's just the nutrient makeup of it. It doesn't have a lot of fat at all. Mm-hmm. And the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio is pretty garbage. It's a very clean food, especially if you're sourcing, you know, fowl from a good farm. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but it's not necessarily a healing food, in my opinion. I'd call chicken and turkey more like a neutral, high quality protein. I look at it as a lean protein, not necessarily as like a great staple food. If you're eating turkey and chicken, you better be eating a ton of egg yolks and butter with it, because you're just not going to get the calories or fat from it. And it satiates the ever living crap out of you. You know, try to eat, if you were to go calorie for calorie based on stomach fill, the same amount of a pound of chicken will not go down as easy as a pound of beef. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. Also, if you look at beef, saturated fat, cholesterol, high omega-3s, collagen, everything the body needs to heal the gut biome, the hormones, the internal organs, and it comes in a package that is the easiest digestible and assimilated food there is besides eggs. It's just, it's kind of like comparing a middle linebacker that plays for the Cowboys for a middle linebacker who is playing flag football on the junior varsity team in junior high. It's like, it's like they're just different beasts, obviously. Also, I think too that just having a purposeful limit to foods in the beginning is both challenging, but it's part of like what I call earning your stripes. If you can't go through 1 month of eating no chicken or taking a food out, this might sound a little harsh, but the possibility of you having the discipline and hard ability to work hard enough to cure your skin disease isn't going to happen. So most people don't know this, but everything that I do with my content and my workbooks and even my school is I'm shit testing people constantly for their own sake. It's like, I'm going to ask you to do this thing that you might not understand. And there will be two types of people who do it. One, the person that will do anything and will do everything and heal, they'll do it. The people that will rationalize taking little breaks and not doing all parts of the protocols won't do it. And those people get stuck in certain sections of my class and live there. And I can honestly say, well, I know exactly that you're not doing any of the work. And we're the people who just do the work. They just excel. And I don't mean be perfect, I just mean consistently trying. Yeah. And so it's a combination of both. It's a nutrient-based thing, but it's also part of the behavioral science, psychological yoga therapy system that I put people through when I work with them.
It's very interesting sometimes what becomes a hang up point for someone and whether they're willing to look. Like I have a client that I'm working with right now that like literally like would refuse to stop eating potatoes, like would come up with every excuse to continue eating potatoes, right? And would somehow rationalize that that was better for her. She would always make it like, I was in a situation where I didn't have access to a lot of stuff, but a thing that I had told her would be better was available as right. And she kept saying, well, I thought the potatoes would be better. And so the whole thing, like she was still losing weight. She was still doing great otherwise, but this was a more serious issue, right? This person also sometimes has trouble like choosing the right people to spend time with and create relationships with and stuff. And so it became very obvious to me that the potato was symbolic of all of this other stuff. And so literally the entirety of our work now is focused on the fact that like she has to stay away from potatoes for 90 days, right? Or whatever it is, just to see what life is like without going to that thing that like instantly makes you feel better. Right.
Yeah.
And so this has been, and once she kind of got to it and accepted it and whatever, right, the amount of progress really fast is, but I can't tell you how many times we had to start over because she had eaten potatoes and I wasn't letting her get away with it. Right.
Right. You're holding her accountable. I wonder what would happen with a person like that if you played the old reverse psychology game and you said, okay, client Jill, fake name, for the next 30 days, since you like potatoes so much, that's the only food you're eating.
Wow.
You're doing the potato diet. Start solution. Welcome to your new world. There's a possibility that in 30 days of that, she's going to be like, fuck potatoes.
Right?
I never did.
I'll keep that tactic in mind. Like kind of like with cigarettes, like if your parents caught you with the cigarette when you were little and they made you smoke
the whole pack.
Yeah.
Or,
right?
or like, I think I had a friend whose mom, and this might be a fake story, so I'm preempting it, but we've all maybe heard this, that their moms caught them smoking and made them eat the cigarettes.
Oh,
eat them.
Yeah.
And if you get sick from tobacco, you never want to be, you don't even want to smell tobacco again. I'm slightly allergic to tobacco. I can't smoke cigarettes. I can't dip. I got sick really early, like when I was 15 from dipping.
Yeah.
My first ever drinking experience. I was drinking 40 Mad Dog, Mickey's Ice 40s and eating dip with French fries like it was candy. And that will make you never use tobacco.
Yeah. All right. If she has a relapse, we'll try that approach, but she's doing well so far. All right. So you've been experiencing a back issue, which is what, like, to me, this has been the biggest, and it sounds funny to people, this has been my biggest eating or diet hurdle over, I've had a back issue ongoing for 2 years now, maybe a little more than that. It's moved into a more manageable zone as I've come to like stop fighting it. Like I stopped just like, pretending that it isn't, thinking that there's going to be some magical like kind of thing to it, and have started to more listen to my body, work with it, and recognize that maybe I have to make some nutrition adjustments, right? Both to help with the inflammation in my body, but also to understand that like, this is where my body's at. And instead of like being like, well, I want to exercise a ton anyway, and just suffer through the pain and use that to control my body, like I've had to shift a little bit. Right. Can you tell us, like, how has that been for you? It's hard when you're a highly athletic person like me. We both did college sports, right? We both have discussed our vanity and whatnot. But that's a hard thing to sort of come to be like a person who's known for your physicality. Suddenly you're a little bit laid up, and then figuring out a way to make the adjustment. First of all, like I hear this back problem. I don't know what your injury, if you actually had an injury or if your back just started to hurt and you don't know why. But I have tons of people that I know, both clients and just friends in the similar kind of reality space that you and I inhabit, who have been having this back thing in, over the course of the last couple of years, or certainly in the last several months. What's going on for you? What do you think is going on, like on the bigger picture here? And then, kind of to what I said about learning to sort of manage and having that not necessarily be a bad, sad, or tragic thing.
Yeah, totally. First of all, I love that you asked that part of the question. For me, injuries aren't mad, sad, tragic. They're great learning experiences. It's kind of like, I don't also believe in failure. Unless you're a liar and not trying, then failure is your karma. But if you're trying hard and you're listening and you keep failing, then keep failing, because you're learning everything in life. For me, my back issues have been really weird, and you'll understand this because I traditionally, as you said, I've been a really high performing athlete my entire life, extremely competitive as a young person in high school and in my early college days, and dealing with a nicked up, banged up body while playing a lot of sports and working out that's normal. That's Monday morning. A little messed up wrist, a sore elbow. I've had surgery on my shoulder before. When I was 9 years old, I was really into skateboarding, and I was also really into playing football. And before practice one day, I was on this little half pipe or a little quarter pipe and just messing around with friends. And I went way aggressive and flew off the ramp and landed on my left hip. And I either dislocated it or even possibly did a little hairline fracture, but I was too afraid to tell my parents that I had hurt myself before football practice. So I went to football practice, limped around, did what I always do, sucked it up. And by the end of the week, I had forgot about it. Well, fast forward to high school days, and that left hip now became a somewhat consistent sciatic nerve issue that would come and go, but was manageable my whole life. Like I'd be like, oh, I'm having a little sciatica, but it never kept me from doing anything. It was just a little sore. Then out of nowhere, as my personal work has shifted from really trying to put energy into the feminine aspects of my being, left side, lower back, to going and having a bigger focus on the masculine aspects of myself. Now, all of a sudden, as that's transitioning the focus from the feminine to the masculine, the back injury out of nowhere goes from being manageable on my left side to being unmanageable on my right side. So I'm taking this from a psychological cue as I have a lot more work to do with my masculinity and those things than I realized. And it was a helpful tool. It'll knock me on my ass to help me, to shake me up enough to take me down to a place where I could humble up and say, you know what, I actually have a lot of work to do with that area and that energy. So on the psychological side, I feel like it has something to do with that. On the physical side, it has been the worst injury I've ever had as far as what it's done to my lifestyle. I've ruptured my kidney. I've torn my shoulders apart. I've had a lot of things happen to me. And this pain is so bizarre. It's like a mild, shocking pain. And I was telling you guys before our chat, for about 2.5 months, I've had the choice of either standing or laying down. Sitting was not an option. Driving in my car is excruciating pain. Luckily, I have a great chiropractor that I work with. And obviously, I do a lot of physical rehabilitation stuff on my own. And it's gotten to a manageable place, kind of like you, where I can sit down. I'm sitting down right now and I'm comfortable. I'm able to drive my car. But it completely took me out of my natural flow and really forced me to learn some new skills, develop some new habits, and really take a much deeper moral inventory into my own spiritual growth that I was already working on. And it is strangely, and this might be a better topic for our next conversation, has strangely coincided with, on the same path, the ending of major relationships in my life, and feeling into things in certain relationships that were just completely off, that I was rationalizing and not giving enough attention to. So there's kind of a whole, there's definitely a physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual aspect to it. And I'm still, I'm on the end of it, that it feels like it's on the way out, but it's still there. And I'm still getting some pretty decent lessons from it.
All right, let's talk about that a little bit more on the other side, because I think maybe we can, what you said was really perfect. Before we move over to the patron segment, why don't you tell us a little bit about your new course, where people can find your work, how they can hook up with you if they want to?
Yeah, for sure. So the new work is just a continuation of the 3-phase workbook. I actually wrote and came up with the idea of 3 phases almost 15 years ago as a concept. And it has been a constant refinement. I've rewritten the 3-phase workbook 11 times at least. There's been 4 editions that have been sold publicly. And there is a couple people, unfortunately, in the skin health community that have stolen my trademarks and copied my work. And I don't really have the time or effort to sue them or deal with them. And I don't really care. They'll get theirs, you know, with their karma. And so I'm moving away from the 3-phase system because of the energy other people have with it. And this new system that I created, I feel like the customization of the biomarker system needs to be the focus anyway, and not this overarching thing of you cleanse, then you customize, then you nourish. It's like that's a good flow, but there's a better way to do it, and this is it. So the 6-week course is just that. It's 6 weeks of multiple videos per week that explain to you and show you the entire process. From week 1 is all about a week's worth of mindset stuff before we even get into cleansing and food. It's a whole week based on mindset. Week 2, we talk about how to customize the diet based on the biomarker system. We fully flush that out. In week 3, we go over the cleansing and detoxification practices, or actually that's week 4. In week 3, we go over all of the different cleanses that are going to be needed. And so each week we go through all of the practices, and it's in a nice little package for people that they can access all the time. It comes with a private, non-Instagram, non-Facebook. It has no social media connection at all. I have my own private group page, completely uncensored, completely unwatched. I moderate it so we can post whatever we want. I can remove people from the group who don't follow the rules. And it's really clean. And we also do bi-weekly calls. So it's like a very tight-knit group. It's been out for less than 4 weeks. I think we already have 80 students. And it's dirt ass cheap right now. It's like $300. So you can find that. People can find that at healpsoriasisandeczema.com. I'm also still doing my coaching, but my coaching, without sounding like a dickhead, is a very premium service at this point. I'm not afraid or ashamed to say that I charge an arm and a leg, and it is only for people who are the most serious and who are willing to work as hard or harder than me. I refuse clients all the time who offer me big sums of money to help them heal their skin, because I don't heal people's skin. I consult people for them to heal their own skin. I don't do the work. I just support the work. So you can find my private stuff at holistichealthactivation.com. All my socials have links to everything, so it's pretty easy to find the help that you need. But yeah, that's the 2 offerings right now. It's private and a 6-week course at healpsoriasisandeczema.com.
Cool. So from the way that you sort of laid out and outlined that course, it sounds like it does address the few things that came up for me while in the things that, like, wow, this is really effective, but I'm having this issue, or I'm having this other thing and whatnot. So I like the way you're kind of addressing some of that before even getting started. And awesome. The focus on the switch in order of like the customization first. That sounds really cool. We will link to all your socials in the description box below. We are going to move over to the Patron side now. You can go to patreon.com/offplanetmedia or emilymoyer.locals.com. And we're going to go a little deeper into the psychological, emotional, and energetic aspect of like making changes to yourself and making changes to sort of the outer aspect of your life. So we'll see you on the other side. Okay. Bye, guys.